Look at that.
3 o'clock.
The clap on the dot.
On the dot. Man, that's a first.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, we're dealing with a professional here. So,
Yeah, sure.
So on the show today, guys, very special guest. We have Sheriff Chad Bianco running for governor of California. Thank God we've got somebody in here that can bring the pendulum back to common sense. So you've been on a ton of podcasts. We've read a few of them or listened to a few of them. We have a lot of questions. Did you want to start off with that stuff?
Yeah, actually. So one of our sponsors and one of my clients, so full-time job is running a media marketing company. But Emerald Spear Tequila is owned by nothing but Navy SEALs. So they all, they heard that you were coming on, so they wanted to sign a bottle all currently active duty. Which is probably why you can't read the names.
That's all right.
Yeah, a lot of SEAL Team 3 and SEAL
That's
Team
amazing.
5 are involved in that, so we wanted to give you that.
That's amazing.
And then they also heard that you're a big outdoorsman and hunter, and so we wanted to grace you with that as well.
Oh,
And
man.
hopefully you can put it to use. There's a coin in there, and then any further information. But on behalf of the team at Emerald Spear,
Yeah, nice.
we definitely wanted to send you away with some goodies.
That's badass.
And then that knife's locally made in Leucadia, so North County, San Diego.
Very good.
Really great guy. He was a former history teacher and kind of turned into a blacksmith. So him and his son run it out of the garage.
Really?
Which
Yeah.
brand is that?
Leucadia Blade Co.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we did a collaboration with them. If you pull it out, actually, it's pretty well dialed with the DLC coating and topographical knife, and they're all serialized. We only made 100 of them. But
That's badass.
It's
For
a-
all the guys out there watching, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, it's a
You have no
perfect range
idea how
knife.
much this means. That's awesome.
yeah,
Sweet.
The tequila's not bad, too.
yeah.
Very good.
It's
I'm not touching that bottle. That bottle's never going to get open.
exactly.
All right, we have another bottle that we might break into later here,
Just in case.
just in case. Yeah. Gotta
Very
get
cool.
things warmed
Oh,
up.
and then also that little marker right up there on the top, that crest, you pop it off and it turns into a ball marker.
Ball mark?
Yeah, so we were kind of founded on the golf course as far as conceptualization of the brand, because one of our founders is relatively allergic to everything else except for tequila.
Really?
So yeah, all the guys got back off a deployment and they're like, let's start a tequila company.
Is that how it came about?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank God. That's good. Now I'm switching from vodka to tequila. It's like good ass tequila.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Very good.
Oh, so we were talking a little bit on the break before we started, and you've been on a ton of podcasts all over the media doing the push. So we wanted to kind of highlight some different stories, give you an opportunity to tell maybe some stories you don't normally get to tell, and we're trying to come up with what kind of questions do we have. And we come up with one that we think kind of fits, because our whole show is just telling stories from our lives and our friends' lives, and some of them are just these wild, crazy stories that when you're in the military, I imagine is probably similar to the law enforcement community, where it's kind of a closed loop, and you don't really, if you're in it, you don't really realize how compartmentalized and different your community is until you get out. And I remember going out where I was in, we were telling stories, and everybody has a crazy story. You don't really think about it because everybody has nutso stories. But then you get out and you tell your civilian friends these stories, and they're like, "What? What? There's no way that happened." And you're like, "Oh, I guess that is kind of a crazy story."
Until you hang out with cops, and then you're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, then it makes sense. Yeah. Well, sometimes they're the same story, just told from different
Exactly.
sides.
Exactly.
That's happened.
And
a
they're
few
always
times.
different.
Yeah, that's happened a few times on the show. So one of the questions we want to ask: you've been over 30 years in law enforcement. You've had thousands of deputies underneath you. You've processed tens of thousands of crimes. What's the craziest thing you've seen, either personally or that came across your desk, and you're just like, "What the heck happened here? Like, how did this go?"
Yeah, there's all kinds of those, but even as you're describing, when you were just asking it that way, it always pops into my head. This is one of the problems with me is you ask me a question and I always answer. It's like I don't have a filter, and it's like I don't know if I should be saying this or not. But I was a deputy, and I went out on a murder call. A guy got shot. And he got shot in his driveway, and it was dark, so we were waiting. Basically, we're there keeping the scene until the investigators get there in the daylight. And so it was my responsibility to stand there in the dark and just make sure nobody came into the crime scene and everything else. And I'll tell you, you see some bad things. You
Right.
see people cut open. You see people, dead and their holes in their heads and
Yeah.
missing limbs and everything else. And after a while, you just get immune to it. The first shock, the first dead person is like, oh my God, that person's dead. And then the first major injury, it's like, that is sick. And then then you're curious and you're wondering those things. So this one, the guy had been shot with a rifle and he'd been shot in the head in his driveway. And I could see the whole thing. And I mean, you're looking around, it's like half of his head is gone or more. And so it starts to get daylight. And as I start looking around, I'm responsible for this crime scene. And we're supposed to preserve everything and everything gets collected and everything else. But the birds are coming and taking away pieces of brain.
Oh
I
man.
knew that's where this is going.
And it was just a surreal feeling. It's like part of me was like, I think I'm supposed to be keeping those birds away, but I can't go into the crime scene. And then it was just the guy's brains are all over the yard,
Oh man.
and the birds are eating it and
Eating
taking
all
it
up.
away. So that was just it was a weird feeling at that
Yeah.
time. And then afterwards, then the stories, of course, you go back and you're telling it and it's like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what was happening with this guy's brains.
yeah.
And so that's the thing that sticks out the most. But being the sheriff, there are plenty of things that I won't talk about here. I'd get in trouble because it's other employees and you
Yeah.
can't talk about
yeah, for
personnel
sure, yeah.
matters. But people do some stupid stuff.
Mhm.
Stupid stuff.
Oh, we've all done stupid shit, so
That's-
we can concur with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, our show is entirely about the stupid shit we've done.
Yeah. But I will agree with the sentiment too on becoming immune with stuff, especially being downrange and being in a war zone for several conflicts, and it's just like the first time you see something, or watching bodies being dug up, or you're just like, this is ridiculous, and you
Yeah.
see the effect it has on the family members and stuff, and you're like, wow, like and then you sometimes, at least with me, I look at myself going, man, am I just turn into like just inhumane or what? Like, it's just like, this is kind of
So that's the
ridiculous,
big fear and
Yeah.
the concern with military guys, especially the stuff that you're seeing all at once and all big. And then cops, it's just forever. It's over a 30-year period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 15, 20, 30-year period of all the same things, and the people with missing limbs and dead in cars or murdered or all of those things. What's worse is kids being hurt.
Yeah.
Kids being hurt or killed or something like that. There's nothing worse than seeing all of that. But you wonder about yourself sometimes, because I believe I have a big faith in God. I believe it's God protecting you, but are you immune to it? Do you
Yeah.
not care? You and then you start questioning yourself. It's like, is there something wrong with me? Why doesn't that bother me?
Yeah.
And so they're definitely, I can see how people self-medicate. I can see how people take up drinking and drugs and everything else to try and combat it. I think for me, over my careers, you just have to talk about it. You can't, if you try and process it internally, you can't fix anything.
Yeah.
But if you say it out loud,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, I heard that, and
Mhm.
then you reason through it.
Yeah.
But inside, it just all goes too fast, and you can't do it. So I don't think any of us there's nothing wrong with us. It's just whether or not you're able to process it, and
Yeah.
people aren't supposed to see those things.
Yeah, it's funny. That's actually been one of the main pieces of feedback we got from the show, because I found like sometimes we have these shows and it's just like a big therapy session we just recorded, and sometimes we come away from a show and we're like, bro, that just felt so good to just chat with
Get it
your
off
friends
your
about
chest.
stuff. Yeah, and after a while, I think this is like our 55th episode or something. We're still super new, but we're starting to suck less than we did in the beginning. And but we're always pushing people to like it's so important to have this circle, to have these conversations with your friends, because if you internalize it, a human can only compress these emotions and these experiences so far before it lets out in some way, whether it's your family or work or something. So like there's a lot to be said for just the power of communication, getting
Yeah.
your boys
yeah.
together. We talk about this all the time, like just get your boys together, start a podcast, go have some beers, whatever your thing is, but just go talk to your friends about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and community is the most important part. In long time ago, especially in the law enforcement world, if you wanted if you were having head noise and you went for a psych or to see a psych or something like that, there was a bad connotation to that, that, oh, you weren't fit or you weren't capable, you weren't man enough or whatever it is, so you didn't go. The reality is, I'm not a fan of psychiatrists, but they get you to just say things out loud.
Mhm.
So you just need to say things out loud. The benefit of military or really this podcast, and I think it's a negative for the military in that when you get out of the military, the reality of real life is there's not many people around you that have been in the military. And so whatever it was you're experiencing, you don't have anybody to vent to.
Mhm.
So if you guys are all hanging out together and you're all talking about the same thing and you're saying it out loud, then you realize it's like, oh, he went through the same thing I did. And what he said made sense to me. So now I can process that better.
Mhm.
So these small groups of people that were involved, that's why, small groups of cops or small groups of military. But for cops, we're always there, and it's more of a longer career. For military, it's a short-term, huge immersion of info into your head, and then you leave with nobody to talk to about it. And you can't, everybody says talk to your wife, talk to your girlfriend, talk to your mom, whatever it is, your dad, whatever it is, but sometimes they don't want to hear it or it's just not the same.
They can't understand sometimes.
Yeah. Men and women talk about different things too. Like my wife is obsessed with horses and I like horsepower. They do not convert.
They're close.
Yeah.
They're close.
But
She just like 400 of them.
oh my God. Yeah. I just like more compressed. But yeah, she'll come home and she'll tell me like 10 minutes about horses. And I got to tell her like, babe, I've got like 2 more minutes of horse talk and then I'm done. She does the same thing with me. I'll talk about like the show or horse cars and stuff. She's like, babe, I got like 2 more car things and I'm done. I'm done for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to find people to talk to, man.
Yeah, it's community.
Mhm.
So one of my questions that I have for you, and on the topic that we're on, is I would argue that almost law enforcement has a more difficult job of dealing with PTS due to it's a day in, day out process. Ours is, this very kind of quick crucible. And then we have separation and we have time off. You guys don't really have time off. So what have you kind of seen when you first became law enforcement, and then maybe anything that you implemented in order to kind of help out, deputies
Night and day.
with dealing
Night
with
and
that?
day. When I started, my career was in the early 90s, and that was kind of like the transition of old school to I don't want to say kinder, gentler, but it was we had to evolve. Law enforcement stayed the same for a long time. And old school, it's good old school's gone. There's a place for it sometimes, but we did move on. And so when I started, the people that were getting ready to retire, the people that you looked up to, they're all multiple divorced.
Yeah.
They're all chain smokers. They're all unhealthy. They're either just completely unhealthy, thin, or way overweight. Alcoholics. It was common, very, very common. And now we're moving forward and past that. And we've gotten more toward that, away from self-medication into getting help. Me taking over, we went full bore on mental health care. And we encourage everyone that not only you, but your family. Take your family, take your kids and everything else. It's no charge. We pay for everything.
That's awesome.
And it's no questions asked. We don't even need to know you're going. So before it was, if you went to see a psych for something, it's like, oh no, do we need a fitness for duty or anything like that? And so it stopped people from going.
Mhm.
And now it's just, we don't even care. We don't care how often you use it. We don't care when you use it. We just encourage you to go do it.
That's good.
And then in traumatic situations, if they get involved in a shooting, if employees die, we force it. We force them to go to counseling. We force them not only immediately, but they can't come back to work until they go again.
Mhm.
And that counselor says that they're fine or they're handling it well. And there used to be a time where people were afraid to say, I'm not ready to come back to work. And they would just come back to work.
Yeah.
And then you're back in the same situation again. And we don't do that anymore. The clinicians that we work with, they know that we don't want them back if they're not ready. And so they're very clear with them that you don't come back to work until you're good with it, and you can. And we've even had some people that have not come back.
Yeah.
They've said, can't do that again. I can't be ever in that situation again. And that's
Yeah.
okay, because we don't want them mentally going
Yeah.
down a bad path and something bad happening to them. We certainly don't want suicide and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And or family issues and whatever the case may be. So we really, really did change, and it's I think it's law enforcement in general. So I'm involved in all kinds of law enforcement leadership and all across the country, and major county sheriffs and state of California sheriffs, and it's across the country that we've identified that because of the constant trauma, brain trauma of dealing with everything is somebody's emergency. It's the most traumatic event that they've had in their life, probably.
Yeah,
And we
don't
just
call you when you're
go
having a
from
good
one
time.
to one to one to one to one, and there's never a break.
Yeah.
And so we know that and we've done great. We've made great strides, and it's no longer taboo. And we make people comfortable knowing that you just got to go talk to. You got to include people in your problems so we can help you through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's a big culture shift. I mean, obviously, I was never a police officer, but my only experience with it is from movies, and it seems like the culture at the time.
Tango and Cash.
Yeah, I was going to say Dirty Harry, but yeah. It seems like it was almost a badge of honor to be that guy that was so committed to the force and so committed to the job that everything else in your life kind of suffered the consequences of that. So it's cool to see that the culture's changing. Was there a catalyst, a certain moment that maybe that shifted, or was it just a gradual shift over time?
It was a gradual shift over time. I think it was everybody was learning things. Everybody, and then organizations, law enforcement organizations, putting out, whether it's reports or training programs or stuff like that. But the move toward psychological care, mental health care. I mean, it's no different than the military. Law enforcement, number one killer of law enforcement, suicides. So it's something that it was almost just like it was ignored. And then so over time, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do to address it? And then now we're just making massive efforts.
Yeah, because you came in, sounds like you came in early 90s. Kevin, you came into the military in early 90s.
Yeah.
Did you see a shift during your time in there from the GWAT veterans in like the mid to late 2000s that they're getting out, and a lot of them took up law enforcement jobs? Did you see something tangible that happened with those guys coming in? Was it
No, we law enforcement or military into law enforcement is pretty much a natural, easy shift. They get out of the military and they either want to go into law enforcement or they get into some other career and realize that they're missing the camaraderie and the team and that whole mission of accomplishing whatever the task is. And so it's a natural draw for them to come in. So when they do come in, military, I don't know of any military people that came in that didn't have a good time or an easy transition into law enforcement. It's almost just natural. We encourage everyone from the armed forces. We work well with the Army, them trying to get the people that are getting ready to get out. We work well with them to let them come. They can come try it and see if they're going to like it.
Yeah.
And it's actually like 6 months before they actually get out.
Yeah, there's a new
It's a new program.
Yeah, SkillBridge program that just started, and I know the Navy's doing it too, or I think all the armed forces.
They probably
are doing
all
it,
are.
but yeah, it's
The
like
contract we have just happens to be with the Army.
right. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. You get somebody that's like, well, for 6 months you're going to basically go try, and if it's cool, then it's cool, and you seamless transition right in, and it seems to be working quite a bit. And there's nonprofits like Beyond the Brotherhood that kind of foster guys coming in and trying to find the right fit, whether it be law enforcement or whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell you a negative is where California is going, and California law enforcement is really run by the state. So California Post, Peace Officers Standards and Training, they set the requirements of who you can hire and who you can't hire. And psychological exams are a requirement. You can't not go to a psychological exam, and you have to pass that psychological exam. And we know from the background investigation, as the background investigators are dealing with the people that are applying, it's like, this person could be a great applicant. This is a great applicant. A lot of it from the military, and then they don't pass the psych.
I've heard that a lot.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because they don't tell us why. They just say no. But California, they don't. I mean, to be honest with you, law enforcement, we want warriors, not for everyday use, but we want it when when it happens.
Yeah.
We don't want someone going to shy away from it.
Yeah.
If there's a fight, you have to be willing to immediately fight, whether it's with a gun or whether it's with your fists.
Yeah.
And so that transition from military into us is perfect. It's I mean, if you were in the military and you had a great experience and now you're looking for that same experience or similar and you're going to law enforcement, we absolutely want you. And you're not passing a psych.
Mm-hmm.
And we absolutely know for a fact that California government doesn't want warriors.
Yeah.
They don't want people they want counselors, and they want college educated, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they want college educated kids that are more on the social worker aspect.
Yeah.
And we, as the boss, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Those people are either going to get hurt or get somebody else hurt, because the people that are making the decisions don't realize, or they don't even care, or they don't believe that there are evil, mean people out there.
Yep.
And unfortunately for us, that's common. I mean, we're not going to a 911 call because it was two nice people getting along that called us to just settle an argument. Yeah. And the state government, the people that are making these laws and making these rules, they believe that we're the problem. They're not admitting that people are bad. They're just bad people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, in a grander scale where you put military and cops together, that's what we're both for.
Yeah.
We're for that evilness to fight on both sides.
And to that point, exactly. And I've had this conversation with many of my law enforcement friends that are down here in SDPD of, you're taking the college graduate, right, and the social worker, and putting them in an environment that they probably never grew up in, whether that be, parts of town that are gang ridden, different cultures that cause them to immediately become nervous. And then you run into the potential possibility of shooting a non-shoot, or being able to handle the situation utilizing rules of escalation in order to kind of match force with force, as opposed to somebody that's very fearful in gang territory and just recently got assigned and just graduated the police academy. Whereas if you're taking a service member, I mean, our hands were tied quite a bit, even special operations or in highly kinetic environments, to where we still had to very much abide by rules of escalation.
Yeah.
And shout, shove, show, shoot. That kind of mantra, and being able to assess the situation. And also the military, you're side by side next to Latinos, Blacks, Asian Americans, whatever that may be, to where culture and race isn't, we hold no more bias towards that.
Right.
Unlike the, uneducated, fresh 21-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And so now
we say that all the time. We say that exact thing all the time in law enforcement. And it is the same with military, because you couldn't care less what color that person is next to you. We're on the same page to win over here. There are no racial divides or biases. And I say that with like, I've got 4,400 employees. There may be somebody.
Right.
I can't imagine it. But there's not a racist in my department. Every single different color, every single different nationality, every racial makeup you can think of, bisexual, homosexual, straight, and no one cares. No one cares.
Yeah.
Are you good or are you bad? Are you a good cop? Are you a bad cop? Are you helping me or are you not? Are we going to go? Yeah. We're on the same mission, and we don't care about those things. But we get labeled as being the most biased people out there, or the most prejudiced people out there, racist people out there, and it's just simply not true. We don't care about those things. We have a mission, and we're on the same team.
People just look at the headlines. It's a rare person that's going to look at the context and get excited about a headline and then be like, wait a second, let me dive in and see what I really think about this. There's incendiary shit all over the place.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, to your earlier point, the people in Sacramento that are essentially developing policies and and things like that govern the state, they just don't know a lot of times.
It's not real life. They've never I'm telling you, all of them there's only, and he's from my county, there's only one military veteran in the assembly.
Oh, wow.
Only one.
Dang.
That's crazy.
And when you now, they've led sheltered lives. They've led sheltered lives where they've never been victimized, where they've never had to live the consequence of their actions or what they did, and they just don't care. They have great thoughts and feelings that seem great until the unintended consequences down the line makes our lives miserable.
Well, I mean, like the whole social worker thing where, we really want a social worker to show up any kind of DV, any kind of domestic violence. So like we should probably have a social worker showing up with law enforcement. Like, okay, first of all, where are you going to get a gang of social workers or an army of social workers to be on standby when this happens? And when some woman's getting her face punched in by her husband, they're like, what are you going to just wait until there's somebody available? They just don't. It's like the whole defund the police thing. It's just, it's the most, I look back on it and go, are you retarded? It's like,
it's not based on reality.
It's not based on anything. It's like, well, we better start taking money away instead of going, well, first of all, if somebody is lacking in a certain skill, if a police officer makes a mistake, I'll be the devil's advocate and go, okay, you're saying that a police officer did something wrong. So instead of looking at it and going, okay, if he did something wrong, well, maybe he's lacking in a certain skill. Why don't we pour more training, pour more equipment, pour more money into getting a person up to the rest of the department so that you don't have these issues versus going, okay, let's take away every bit of money. And of course, that's looking at the victim, or not the victim, looking at the person who perpetuates the crime and going, maybe it's the problem of the person that's causing the issues in the first place. It's not the cop that's coming there trying to de-escalate.
A lot of these people are just allergic to responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little accountability.
That's the key.
But and that was the first time I heard there's only one veteran in all the legislature, and so I get on social media quite a bit, and I don't comment too much on certain things, but I will say finally having a red, or at least a right-leaning politician, you're not a politician, but right-leaning candidate that's kind of leading some of the polls. And I will say there are quite a few people that are like, dude, finally we get a red governor. This is going to be fantastic. And I'm all on board with that. However, I always preface this with, there's been a Democrat supermajority in the legislature since like the 70s, like I think 74.
Yeah.
And
isn't that what Arnold faced too? He had problems getting stuff pushed through.
Yeah. So how do you anticipate? And I know there's certain things you can unilaterally, probably way more than I do. You can unilaterally kind of change and make policy on. Yeah. But then there's other things that I'm guessing you're going to have some kind of issues with some of the stuff. And
Absolutely.
It's funny because I make comments and be like, I'm like, unfortunately, there is this Democrat supermajority to where if they want some shitty law, and even though you veto it, they can potentially come back and go, whoop, it's a law now.
They can do that. It's difficult. It's difficult and it's time consuming. And to be honest with you, they don't want to do the time consuming.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say they won't override a veto, but they can't override every single bill being vetoed. They don't have enough time in the day to override everything.
Okay.
And so it's definitely something, the supermajority, but the reason why I don't care and I'm not worried at all is because the reason the majority of most of them are there is because it's power. It's power, it's prestige. I've met tons of them, and I got to tell you, there's they weren't the popular kids in school.
Yeah.
And so when they end up in a position like that, I mean, I can't remember who said it, but the quote of, you want to test a man's character, give him power.
Yeah.
And when you give them power, all of a sudden,
Those are the worst ones to have power to.
yes. And
Yeah.
so the thing that's happened to all of us in California and why California is so screwed up is because we don't know what they do there. And they do everything. The blinds are down. You don't see what happens in there. You don't ever hear what happens in there. And then when we find out laws are bad, that it's like, what do you mean we can't do that? Well, we haven't been able to do that for 10 years. You just realized it.
Yeah.
And it's things happen in the cloak of darkness that nobody hears about. And what's going to be different with me there is just calling them out. It's lifting up the shades and shining light on the decisions that they're making and using that desire for power against them. Because the only thing they're fearing is not getting elected again. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
They don't care about how passing. They don't care about how bringing wolves into the state of California is putting all of the ranchers out of business because all their cows are getting killed.
Yeah.
They couldn't care less. So when you expose them for what they're doing, now they have to answer to the people that are electing them, and they're running that chance of not getting elected, and that truly is all they're afraid of. And so that's going to be my goal. We're working for the betterment of California, not your special interests. Not if you want to stay here, then do what's best for California. You can't do your own one-sided, one-party rule agenda anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do what's best for everyone, and you're gonna. And the difference when you're talking about Arnold, he did come in with great plans and great ideas that were common sense, that were going to make us all better. The difference between he and I is, I can promise you, he's a much nicer guy than I am.
That's a great answer.
And that point in his career, he was still Hollywood, and he didn't want to make people mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am so past making people mad, it doesn't bother me at all. Yeah, I know you can't make everybody happy. He wanted to make everybody happy, and you can't do it. It's impossible.
Very true.
Speaking of making people mad, I have heard through kind of the rumor mill and friends that work in executive protection. So when I got out, I used to do EP up in LA for, significant people of worth or notoriety. And after the Palisades fire, I was hearing from my guys that were working for, clients that lost their homes during that fire, that there was a big almost awakening for those that used to sit on the left side of center with regards to politics, and that now they are looking for a candidate like yourself. And now a lot of people in Malibu, Palisades, and just LA in general, and obviously because so many people from Hollywood live there, it really kind of bled in. And it kind of seems like a lot of former leftists are now kind of starting to get center because they're frustrated with the response or with the ignorance to the problem that was underlying for years that was inevitably going to happen. Have you seen any of that?
Yes, across the board, all across the state. And that's really how I know I'm going to win. Is I say it all the time. I'm not going to be jumping up and down saying we turn California red. I'm not doing this for the Republican Party. Not doing it for the Democrat Party. It's for Californians. Everything I am doing is going to be for Californians. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who you want, as long as you want me. I mean, if you want me, it's because you want a better state and you want things different.
I just got the chills.
And it's we're finding that. And with the Palisades was unique because a lot of the things in California, there's a lot of people that make good money in California, and they donate to campaigns. They donate to causes. They donate to these politicians, and they go to all the fundraisers and everything else. And it's a good thing. For me, trying to run this, you need those people, but they're kind of immune from the bad parts of California,
right?
Unless they own a business, they're not being forced out because of regulation. The regulation isn't killing their business. The employee rules and that are killing them. It just doesn't affect them. The Palisades predominantly was all Democrat, wealthy Democrats who contribute to campaigns, who did all of that stuff, and they don't care about the price of gas. It's an inconvenience that it's not the same as Nevada, but they can afford $100 tank of gas. Doesn't affect them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care what the price of milk is. It doesn't affect them. This affected them because some of them had the money and they're like, what do you mean I can't clear out my own property? I'm not waiting for somebody else to do it. I want to hire a company to come do it. And they were told no.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do you mean? I mean, I don't care about the insurance. I want to build my house back. And they were told no. And so that started changing people's, when did all of this happen? And then they realized it's like, wait a minute, I've been supporting this forever.
Right.
And it's like, holy moly. And now they start paying attention and they're like, okay, well, I thought I was a Democrat, but apparently I'm not because
Yeah.
I don't believe in all of that you're doing. And that's what we're seeing is really across the board is everyone's moving toward the middle because I think we're all tired of the politics destroying everything when we don't know really what our friends are and we really don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care who you vote for.
It's all the politics and all the politicians kind of pitting everybody against each other
Mm-hmm.
because it's all the far right wingers are pointing to the far left wingers going, it's your fault, and it's your fault. When in all actuality, most of us just want to live in the middle and either be left alone,
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
not spend $8 for a gallon of gas. Make sure that the government is putting water in a reservoir when there's supposed to be water in a reservoir,
Right.
or that the friggin' the fire hydrant works when it's supposed to work, and make sure that certain policies are funded.
Yeah, and a reasonable
Yeah.
regulation. So
Yeah.
like it's the California Coastal Commission that extends 10 miles inland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard, and I don't know because I don't own a house out here, but I've heard that they're notoriously super difficult to deal with.
Horrific.
Does the governor
Impossible.
position does the governor position have enough power to push back
I can
and
remove
elicit
it.
change on them?
I can remove
Really?
it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
see, ultimately there was a law passed that allowed the creation of the California Coastal Commission. And then the Coastal Commission is operated by appointed board members. And then they make the rules.
Mm.
Well, you didn't vote for that.
Yeah.
You didn't
Right.
make it a law. And the legislature didn't make it a law. It's a rule. And the governor can suspend any rule. I can't change a law, especially one that the people did. The people can only change a people-made law can only be changed by the people. The legislature, if they passed a law, they can amend it, they can change it, they can whatever they want with it. But a regulation it's just a rule that we're following, and because we're good people, we just go along with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the governor can do away with it, and he did just for the Palisades victims.
Are
So
they
the
still
coastal.
having a lot of problems with that though?
Oh yeah, it's a combination because LA didn't remove their restrictions. So Los Angeles still isn't giving building permits, and they're still not going through the process. The governor came in because he's running for president, so he got upset because it's all Democrats that give money,
Yeah.
and so he had to come in and say, "Oh look, I'm going to suspend the Coastal Commission and CEQA
Mm-hmm.
just for the Palisades victims." And it's all great. He should have done that, but I look at it like, well, why not for everybody else?
Yeah.
Because we're all suffering
Yeah.
from the same thing.
Well, if he did that, then why are they still pushing back on not allowing people to rebuild or make progress on this stuff?
It's bureaucracy, bureaucratic red tape with fees, restrictions,
Mhm.
making money. You have to do something to make money for the city. The city is making money off of the longer it takes for you,
Yeah.
even if it's the permitting process. It's just you wasting all of this time and effort, and every time you bring something in, like if you're bringing in plans for a building, every time you bring in plans, they send them back with another. You got to go fix this,
And
now
another
you're
fee.
Yeah.
and every time it happens, you
Yeah.
have to pay again.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
there's constant fees, So, for instance, building a house. If you lived in, pick a state other than California, if you want to build a house, within 90 days you can have a house built. I decide I want to build tomorrow. You go down, you get your permits, you pay $20 for your permits, and you go buy plans from somebody, hire a contractor, and within 90 days you have a house. It takes 3 to 5 years in California. To get
Jeez.
through the government red tape, it's 3 to 5 years. And talking about CEQA and the Coastal Commission, when you said they're a hindrance, they're an impossibility, because over the years, those two entities were hijacked by environmental activists and their attorneys to prevent growth.
Yep.
That's what they're designed for. That's their whole mission.
What's CEQA?
CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay.
So it's basically the federal EPA on steroids. And it was actually Ronald Reagan, strangely enough, that implemented CEQA. It was forced upon him from the governor prior. And he even said when it became the rule was that it's bad and it has to be changed. We have to evolve. We have to change.
Yeah.
We have to make changes. But there's never been a change. So the next 5 governors all said we need to do away with CEQA or we need to repeal it or make some repairs.
Yeah.
But no one's done a thing. So I'm going to completely remove it. There's what it makes happen is we get punished for living in California.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to go through any of this in any other state. But when you come to California, if you want to live in California, you have to get punished and taxed, extra taxes and fees to live in California just to keep feeding big government.
So what's the premise of the California Coastal Commission? Because this might be leading to my next question.
So it's basically originally started, it was to regulate building around the ocean. So it's
In order to protect the ocean.
yeah,
Okay.
it's environmental.
Okay.
It's all environmental. Protect the ocean to protect our coastlines. And so it went from that to nothing. You can do absolutely nothing because everything is bad for the coastline.
So that leads into my next question is being a San Diego resident and homeowner. I live down in Imperial Beach, which is just south of Coronado. And as I'm sure you're aware of, we have the massive sewage problem that's coming up from Tijuana to the point where even FEMA sent down individuals in hazmat suits, which is 2 blocks away from actually where I live and where I'm outside. I'm trying to have a family and kids. And even FEMA refused not to go with like a category 3, like biohazard suit. Where's the California Coastal Commission on that?
Exactly.
Where's any regulations on this to where our Navy SEALs that are training are getting insanely sick?
Contaminated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they are
there's-
getting sick.
It's a completely useless body of water that we have down here.
It is. And that right there is the proof that it has nothing to do with the coastline. It has nothing to do, exactly. It's about preventing growth and it's about getting money. So all of these things, if you want to build something inland or whatever it is, they're going to just tell you completely no, or you're going to pay a lot of money for it. And you're going to pay fines and you're going to pay fees and you're going to pay, mitigation costs and all of these things just so the state can get more money. But proof is when you have something harming the coast, everybody's silent.
Yeah.
There's nothing being done about that.
We had a funny story on this when I was teaching at SQT. For people that don't know, like this is a great example of how absolutely ridiculous some of this stuff is. So when I was teaching diving at SQT, we'd have the guys in San Diego Bay. They're on the west side is the ocean, and the east side of it is the San Diego Bay. So the students would go dive, and they do their thing. They come out of the water in their wetsuits, and then they would go 15 feet over, like from this wall to not in the other wall. And they would, because they're all soaking wet in their wetsuits, and they would get under an outdoor
decon shower.
Yeah, decon shower, which is straight, just regular tap water. And it would wash the water off their wetsuits back into the bay. So this environmental agency came over and wanted to fine us. I figured it was $5,000 or $50,000. It was something insane for washing the water that just came out of the bay.
Because the water's running into the bay.
We're not allowed to wash the water that came out of the bay back into the bay.
bay.
It was absolutely insane. This is on a military base, and this is the stuff that actually happens. It sounds so incredible, but I saw it firsthand. It's unbelievable.
I am pretty sure, like back in the 70s and 80s, I mean, I'm sure some of that stuff probably had some validity because, I mean,
it did.
When I came out to San Diego in the early 90s, I mean, there was still relative smog in LA and not as bad as it was probably in the 70s and 80s. And, you do see California emissions on cars and stuff like that, which I think now is so outdated that it's like there's literally no difference between a California car and a car coming, wherever, a Nevada car.
Yeah. So here's the difference, though, and this is what happened. Those rules haven't changed. But all the cars and technology did.
Of course.
So if you believe that CEQA, Coastal Commission, and CARB are valid and actually serve a purpose and do something good, then you also have to believe that when you leave the state, all of a sudden there's black skies and
Exactly.
there's pollution all over
Right.
and everybody's
Yeah.
dying everywhere else. And it's just not true.
Well, so the whole thing too with the whole California blend of gasoline, and I mean you have refineries, in addition to all these other businesses that are fleeing the state in record numbers. Like I've never understood the fact that there's probably more refineries in California than certainly more than in Nevada or Arizona.
There's none in Nevada and Arizona.
Right.
All their gas comes from us.
And their gas is dirt cheap, and I just paid over $6 a gallon to fill up my car, and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And there's still more refineries leaving.
So 80-90% of the gas in Arizona and Nevada comes from us. There's no pipelines coming into California. They all go out.
Right.
And we ship all of that out to those states. And so we buy the oil from somewhere else. It's stupid that we don't use our own. So we buy it from somewhere else, we process it into gas, and then we ship it to Nevada and Arizona. And miraculously, when it crosses that state line, it's $2 a gallon cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's the same gas, but more effort to get it there.
Right.
And we still pay $2 more per gallon. It's designed for California. The environmental activism is forcing gas and oil out of business. That's what the design is, and it's got to stop.
So is there some ability in the office of governor for you to go, okay, this is dumb as shit.
Completely.
Like, boom. It's
completely.
done.
So it's all regulation.
Okay.
It's all regulation. So the regulation gets removed from the oil industry. We allow them to drill. We allow them to pull all that oil out of the ground. We process our own oil. So now we're not, and this is more back about the environmentalists. It's way worse to allow the Middle East with zero regulations. I mean, we have federal EPA that we take care of our environment. We don't want to pollute the environment. So it's way worse in the Middle East and in South America that has absolutely zero quality control.
Yeah.
So we're buying all of their oil and then we ship it here on ships. So all of that carbon footprint of the diesel and everything else that's getting all of that gas and oil into us, it would be so much better for the environment if we did it ourselves here. But they don't want to. It's because you have to get to the real purpose. They want it gone. But with me as the governor, I remove all of those restrictions. We do our own oil. We stop buying from other places. And then we get revenue actually generated like Texas does, like Alaska does, like the Dakotas do. And ultimately, with me as the governor, you all stop paying state income tax. The state gets its revenue
like
from
Alaska, look at the amount of oil that they produce.
We could do the same thing here. I'm not saying we would or that we should.
Yeah.
We don't. Definitely, Alaska has more oil than any place in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's all fine. But we also have enough oil here that never, ever, ever in the history of the world are we going to run out of oil.
Yeah.
Eventually, technology is going to take cars to something else. It'll be fusion or, I mean, who knows
or
what
to
it
100
is.
miles a gallon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nominal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So something is going to make it go away, but we're never, ever, ever going to run out. So we might as well utilize it here to best serve Californians.
Yeah.
We're not going to pollute the environment. If California's belief that you can't do your own oil here because it's going to ruin the environment. Well, how about Alaska? Alaska is the most beautiful place in the freaking world. I mean, we have Signal Hill in Los Angeles. There's oil rigs all over Signal Hill in people's backyards. And you just don't realize
It's like
it.
Long Beach.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, Signal Hill, and wife's family lives up there.
Everything
and
is
literally, drive up
clean.
there, you're like, dude, what is this
It's an oil
derrick
rig.
sitting here in the middle of downtown LA?
My wife said the same thing. She's from Toronto, so my wife, immigrant, went through due process and naturalized, but pulling up in Long Beach, she's like, the fuck is this? And it's just, pumping oil out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, by
it's
the way.
pretty wild, man. I mean, California, it could be like an amazingly productive
Absolutely.
asset.
California is the
Huge.
only state in the country that can be independent in itself.
Mm.
We can make all our own food. We can be energy independent. We can be oil independent. And we're the only state. We're the only state that can grow food year round for the entire state.
Yeah.
Because we're so big in the different environments from Mexico all the way to almost Oregon. You can't really grow too much when you get right close to Oregon because it's all forest.
A lot of weed.
There's a lot of weed there. There's a lot of weed there. You still be productive.
Yeah.
You can still supply the demand.
I mean, and almost to that point, I actually kind of fully support, the taxation on marijuana. Because I think that Colorado's proven that the revenue stream from taxation of cannabis is a huge builder for our infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a misnomer, and it was kind of okay, but California was amplified. The negative was amplified, so they did have a big tax increase, but unfortunately they figured out that that money was all spent because of the mental health care that was now required in schools because all the kids are smoking weed and now they're all depressed and now they all need health care. So that money was being used up by that. But in California, it just got overtaken by illegal marijuana. So if you're going to have legal marijuana growing, which that's what we went to, is you can grow marijuana, you can get the permits and everything else, and they're going to get tax revenue from it and everything else. You have to eliminate the bad.
Yeah.
And what happened is the bad just got bigger. And we supply probably 80 to 90% of the country with marijuana. California does.
Yeah.
And it's not legal. It's black market. It's cartel. It's Chinese cartel. It's Mexican cartel. It's Middle Eastern cartel. It's Russian cartel. It's gangs. It's organized crime that's growing all this marijuana and shipping it elsewhere. China is all the money is going back to China. It's a Chinese government that has all these massive grows in California, and so marijuana at one time, just roughly, sometimes it was a little more, sometimes a little less, but say $1,000 for a pound of marijuana, which is now $150.
Yeah.
And it's because of black market. So if you're going to go through all the process, and it was expensive, it was a laborious task of getting your permit, and it was expensive. They were making you pay a lot of tax. So if you're selling a bag of weed for $100, and this guy over here is selling it for $80, who are you going to buy it from?
Right.
Yeah.
So these people can't even sell their marijuana because the guy around the corner who's doing it illegally, the three guys around the corner, are competing. Now it's down to 75, 60. And this person's selling nothing. Yeah. So a lot of the marijuana people are out of business.
Yeah, there's a value to so my wife and I moved to Texas. I'm born and raised California my whole life and then was stationed out here. And then my wife and I moved to Texas 2017 because everybody from Texas will tell you Texas is the greatest state on the planet, right? And so we moved there and all this business atmosphere that you hear about. We moved there and I've always been we don't need all this red tape. People figure shit out. It's not a big deal. And then I moved to Texas and I realized, a little bit of red tape's pretty good. It was in the freeway, and a freeway around here, if you close off a freeway, there's a bunch of signs. They can only put the barrels out, 1 foot every 100 yards or whatever it is. But it's reasonable. You get notice and then you move your car over. There, you're just cruising down the freeway and there's a fucking barrel in the middle of the road. You're like, what is going on? So yeah, and there's a ton of stuff like that I was like, okay,
get over, Ryan.
Yeah, I know, right? My fault. But I was like, okay,
you should have
maybe
been paying attention.
Yeah, my bad.
Get off your phone.
Yeah, but I was like, okay, maybe a reasonable amount of red tape is good. But the problem with California is everything is so hyper regulated that it doesn't make any sense and just causes a big gum up. The other thing too, that I was going to talk about with the problem of oil not being produced here. The same thing. So we do a lot of manufacturing for PVC patches, apparel, all kinds of stuff. And certain products you cannot get made in the United States because of the regulation. So you have to go overseas, which is fine, whatever. But what people don't realize, if we're all on one planet and they say they want to do good for the planet, you have to have reasonable amount of red tape. Because if you make it so egregious to get anything done, people are just going to go overseas where there's no regulation and they're just pumping all this crap into the air.
Right.
And you're like, how about we make it reasonably acceptable for people to actually get stuff done here in the United States, and then we can move it back. But this thing of no, we have no emissions, no nothing. That's not a reasonable stance.
You can't stop it, and you can't to force it out by cost.
No.
So you can't regulate it out with excessive regulation and cost, and you can't just stop it altogether because all you're doing is forcing it to go somewhere else.
Overseas, right?
Well, it's
Yeah.
like the permit process. I went through we redid our kitchen, went through the same thing. I as the homeowner brought my permits, and the lady would literally look at it and be like, nope, just push them across. I'm like, hey, wait, I'm not the GC. Like, let me know what I need to do for this. And it was literally, she was pushing the things back because I didn't have outdoor covers on my drains outside of the house. I'm like, we're not doing anything outside. It's in the kitchen. She goes, yeah, but you're probably going to be cutting wood and stuff outside. I go, no, we're going to be cutting stuff inside. And
What?
they're literally like turning my
asinine.
permit down because I didn't have the provisions for drain covers on outside
For what you might do.
for what I
Yeah.
might do.
Wow.
And so it goes the other way. I'm like, well, dude, I'm getting ready to, in the event I was going to put a shower downstairs. I'm like, I'm not going through 6 months of bullshit to put a shower
yeah.
in my house where there's already a sink and a toilet just to have the city or state make me jump through these hoops and pay an ass ton of money
Mhm.
Right.
just because they want a little extra money. And it's the same thing. It's like, keep it reasonable. And I don't think, just like taxes, I don't have any problem paying whatever exorbitant amount of stuff we pay for property tax, wheel tax. I mean, some of that shit's a little bit ridiculous. If the roads are good, your schools are reasonable, you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah.
But then you get down that road and it's like,
You see where it's going.
great. I'm like driving down one of the nicest neighborhoods in San Diego, and it's like you're driving on a gravel road because there's so many potholes.
Yeah.
Or the school is completely like 49th in the nation,
Everybody's bums getting free needles and shit.
and like
Yeah.
the administration they're letting kids demonstrate against ICE, and
Yeah.
this
What the
like
hell?
Third
just
graders.
teach
Yeah.
my kids.
That's crazy.
Yeah. How about teaching my kids to read, because only 48% of kids in California can read.
exactly? Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
35% proficient in math and science, but yet our third graders are protesting ICE.
yeah.
And we wonder why we're so messed up.
Which, I mean, in the third grade, you're a byproduct of your environment and your parents.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
absolutely. Like, these kids have no idea what they're doing, and that's ridiculous.
I can't believe that's legal. Like, how is that legal to take your kids and go? Didn't one kid get run over the other day?
Well, I don't know, but then one of the things on the legality of that is,
No.
they're going to say, well, it's up to the parent to make this decision. But now we have that, or the law that
Take your
passed
parents-
that Newsom put through, to where now you don't have to tell the parents if your child identifies by a different gender in said fourth grade or third grade. And it's like,
It's crazy. I was just talking to a guy that said that he took his 12-year-old son to the doctor. And so they go in, and the filling out the paperwork is on an iPad, but they give it to the kid and separate the kid from the parents to fill out all of the intake on the iPad and go all the checks of the box. So and the kid has absolutely no intention of keeping anything from his dad. He wants dad to fill it out. So he's telling dad what all the questions are. And they're seriously stupid ass questions that have nothing to do with medical care. It's, are there guns in the house?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Are they in a
do your
safe?
parents argue?
it's
Does
got
it-
1984 written on it.
Yeah.
Dang.
And I'll tell you this whole thing about parent keeping secrets from parents, and whether it's doctors or schools or anything else. As a dad, as a 33-year cop, when an adult tells a kid to keep a secret from a parent, there is something very, very wrong going on there.
Yeah.
And for all you people out there for it, I'm not accusing you of anything, but kids don't keep secrets from their parents.
No,
That's
should
the
they?
number one rule is there are no secrets from your parents.
Yeah.
And when you have another adult telling a kid to keep a secret from a parent, there's something very, very evil
Yeah.
about
that's
that.
some
And we have now
nefarious
made
shit.
it a law.
That's
It's
so
crazy.
We've gone so backwards on this stuff, man.
Yeah,
God dang.
So-
it really is.
Sheriff, what was kind of the catalyst or moment that caused you to realize that you need to maybe step away from the sheriff's department and run for unequivocally probably the most difficult candidacy ever?
It's a good question. I ask myself that every day.
I bet.
It became a point where I never woke up and said, I want to be governor. And I'm still not at that point. I don't want to be governor. I know that I have to be governor because nothing is going to change.
Thank you.
And I got to the point, especially because of public safety. So my position allows me or caused me to be in Sacramento a lot, fighting bad public safety bills. And while I was there, I meet all of these other people with all of these same issues in their industry. And it's like, man, we all got the same common enemy. And the same common enemy is the people making these horrific laws that are harming all of our industries. And then it gets close to this election 2.5 years ago, and people are already lining up to be the next governor. And I realized very early on, even Hilton, who's on the Republican side, he's been running for governor for 3 years. It's not a secret that he was going to do this. So everybody knew that he's planning on running. All of the Democrats are all lining up. And I look at him and say, there is nothing going to get better. It's going to stay the exact same, or it's going to get worse. And nobody else is stepping up to do anything. And it's one of those things. A supervisor told me, I was a deputy, working narcotics, never wanted to do anything different. If I would have promoted into narcotics and stayed there, that was my goal, is I want to be a drug cop until I retire. And my supervisor at that time made me fill out the promotion packet to promote. And he said, and I didn't want to. I mean, he told me I couldn't even leave the building until I filled out the packet. And I'm like, I don't want to promote. I got the perfect job right here. And he basically said, if you don't promote, someone else will. And you never know who that person's going to be.
That's a good point.
It's true.
And it really hit home. It was like, oh, yeah, because then you think about supervisors that you don't like or that do a horrible job, that just bad leaders. And that's always stayed with me, and to where a point now where I tell people that. I teach everybody, I talk to everybody that we hire, new academies, and I tell all of them that same thing. When it gets time, you're going to love your career, but you have to realize part of being in this career is make it a career, and you need to go up and, if you're capable at least, you hope that you promote, and you want to do good for the people below you when you promote. So taking that same mentality to this is, I know who was coming up. And it's like, it's not even an unknown now.
Yeah.
It's, I know nothing's going to get better, and we can't have any of those people there. So I had to do it. So it's not that I want to be the governor. It's I have to be the governor because the state's going to fail. I mean, we're one of the largest economies in the world as a state, and we have the most debt, the most poverty, the most homelessness. We're worst at everything, the highest cost of living, the highest taxes, the highest unemployment.
Worst schools,
none of that,
nearly.
Yes, none of that makes sense until you realize it's the politics. And it's the same people over and over and over, and that's who's on this list. It's the same career politicians that have ruined everything for us. And you said it earlier, there's nothing bad about this state other than the politics.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to change.
And what I fail to understand too is with all those stats and all those very, very, very provable numbers, the current leader of this state now wants to run our fucking country.
Yeah.
Like, if we want to treat the country, and I feel like we should, like a business, which, I personally feel like the presidential election, the last one, it's almost like if there's one more, we're all doomed. And I feel like if there's one more Newsom that comes in after Newsom, we're doomed.
Oh, shit.
And
Brown into Newsom.
how are we going to go ahead and celebrate somebody that has the most the most disastrous track record of the third largest, highest GDP is California in the world, to become president of the free world?
Yeah.
Over my dead body.
Yeah. There's not anything he can point to say he did good.
Oh,
He
God.
touts this whole, whether we're the fourth or the fifth largest economy. I don't even know what we are now. I think we're back to fifth. We moved up to fourth, not because we did anything good. It was Japan failed. So we move up to 4, Japan goes to 5, Japan panics, so they make all the corrections, and now they're 4 again.
Yeah.
So because we weren't doing anything to stay up, Japan surpasses us. And when you listen to Newsom talk, or when you listen to current Democrats talk about the economy in California is not doing well. We're out of money. We spend more money than we have. We're in debt. There's a deficit in every year. It's going to get worse for the next 5, and everything is bad.
Yeah.
But they say, "Oh, it's great because we're the 4th largest economy in the world, the 5th largest economy." And my answer to that is, China is number 2. I don't want to live in China.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to live in China. So
Yeah.
don't tout the economy, the size of the economy, like it's something great. The only reason we're number 5 is because we have 40 million people in this state.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have great industry. Our agriculture industry leads the country. It's the tech industry is, everybody comes to California. The bad part is now they're all leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're being taxed out of existence, regulated out of existence, and so now there's this mass exit of California. And the problem that we saw in the last 4 years is California is losing representation in government. So how did they fix it? It's not based on residency. They just allowed all the illegals to
Import
come back
illegals,
in,
right.
Of course.
pay the illegals to come in here, give them free everything so they come in. That brings our population back up so they don't lose congressional seats.
Yeah.
You know,
And
that was such a problem too when my wife and I were going through the immigration process. Is, you know, wife coming from Canada, she got indoctrinated heavy due to the, you know, friends that I keep, due to my own personal beliefs. And the election was coming up, the presidential election, and she's like, "Man, I wish I could vote." I'm like, "You can. You live in California." And she's like, "I'm not a citizen." I'm like,
It's not stopping everybody
I'm like,
else.
I know it's not stopping
So-
anybody else.
So the thing with that is, and I tell people all the time, and I got in trouble the other day because I said, you know, if they set the system up, the whole mail-in ballots and everything else, and I said, you know, if they're going to mail you 5 ballots to your house, send them back in. I mean, beat them at their own game. That's
Yeah.
what they designed it for. And I got in trouble because there's the sheriff telling us to commit crimes, and it was. I was making a joke.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
there's obvious
I'm being
fraud going
facetious
on
here, obviously.
yeah. So, I mean, you can't do that, but you wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it because she's a good person.
Yeah.
Right.
But all the people that are doing it, it's because they aren't good people. They don't care that
Yeah.
it's against the law. They're being told to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, it was on social media that I saw that when you fill out propositions and you get signatures and everything else, and you got to go in and you got to be a registered voter and you got to be registered there in the district so you can sign that position in the place where you live. And they were down in Los Angeles and they were paying people. They were paying all the homeless people $5
Yep.
just come in, and they were telling them what name to sign.
Yeah.
Saw that.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And it's like the fraud is just rampant here. And it's, you wouldn't do it, your wife wouldn't do it, but everybody else is.
I
Well-
know, and then that kind of, you know, brings up the other point to where I feel like there's so much subversion in the Democratic Party with regards to either the activism, the protesting, putting people into power, and Republicans, or, you know, the right in general, even libertarians, are by the book, and we have day jobs, so we can't just go throw bricks at ICE agents, you know, on a Tuesday at noon. In order to kind of rally against that. It's like, well, that's taking over, and I'm just trying to figure out at what point is the right going to be tired of being walked all over, lied to, beaten down, due to morality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? There's been a few times in my life overseas, I'm like, fuck it. Like, the gloves are off, and like, let's go toe for toe.
And I think we're at that point. And I honestly, I've got a great job. I absolutely love my job. I don't want to give it up. And I wouldn't do what I'm doing now and put my family through it if I didn't think that people were going to vote for me. And because of the timing, not because of anything else other than people are fed up.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's where we are, is everyone's like, okay, I'm done. And the reality of California, they say we're blue. We're really not.
We're
It's-
not.
60% of the people don't vote. That's why we keep losing elections, because it's the same 40% of the population that votes, and it's the same numbers every single time, because everybody else they're busy, they're working, and good people don't want to cheat. They know that mail-in ballots are for cheating. That's what they were designed for. It's like, I'm not participating.
Right.
I'll show up on election day. Then on election day, we've been brainwashed to believe that our vote doesn't count. So now it's like, oh, I got meetings at work. I'm busy at work. Now I'm hungry. I got to pick up the kids from practice.
Yeah.
And now there's just no time. So I'm not even going to go vote. My vote doesn't matter anyway. So 60% of the people don't vote. You would be blown away it is in the thousands of people that have come up to me as I've been traveling the state and doing all this day-to-day talking of people that tell me, and even that's surprising, my age and sometimes older, that say, I've never voted before, but I'm voting for you. You're going to be my first vote. We need to fix California.
Yeah.
And that's what I believed in the beginning. I thought people, the silent majority that aren't participating, we all believe the same thing, are going to finally get fed up. And I think that's what's happening. It started at COVID. And they're like every year they just double down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
COVID was a big one.
Well, it needs a hard shift, man. You brought up something earlier that I think is the differentiating factor between, because I follow politics, but I'm not deep into it. So I researched you a little bit, and then we have some common friends. So I feel like I have a good sense of where you're at. I don't know much about Hilton, but I was seeing on the ballot, like, dude, two people who seem like common sense, awesome, but when you said, and here's the part that I think is a big difference between you and Hilton, is that you don't care to piss people off. That is such a key differentiator, because I think that's why Trump is able to get so much stuff done, because like, hey, this is the right thing. We're going to try it, and fuck you if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the right thing to do.
I don't want to compare myself to Trump, but it's almost the same thing. He didn't have to do this. He did this. He didn't want to be president.
Yeah.
He knew that he was doing it for America. He more money than ever than his great grandkids can ever spend. So it wasn't and all these people saying he's making so much money. Once you're you got $8 billion, your money just makes money as you go. You don't have to do anything. He did this because somebody had to go in and make a difference.
Right.
And that's really why I'm doing it. I don't have to do it. I don't necessarily want to do it, other than I want to make a difference. If I could make a difference in California and not be the governor, I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
Give me that position and just let me be the guy that fixes everything.
Yeah.
But you can't have that happen when you have a governor that doesn't want that. So the only position is it has to be governor.
Yeah, I think at the state and the federal level with Trump is Trump didn't need the money, and he wasn't a career politician, which is the key point for me, right? Like, he had nobody that he needed to please. And for you, you're not a career politician, but you're law enforcement as well. So the service to the state and to your community, like, your boots on ground. You've seen everything from the ground up since you moved here. And you've seen what needs to be course corrected. And those are individuals that need to be in I hate to use the word power, but of influence and of being able to make a change.
Yeah. And back to the Hilton thing, there's a huge difference between us in that the law enforcement aspect of me, for me to be successful in law enforcement and to get to the spot I am now, and then nationwide, I'm considered as a nationwide leader in my field. I cannot get to that point without, number one, leadership ability, but you have to also be competent in what you're doing. You have to be doing things for other people. You can't be self-serving and be a leader in this world by being self-serving. And the biggest thing is you got to be honest. I can't get to the place I am now bullshitting my way through it or not being honest with people. And that's the difference between me and politicians, is politicians just tell you what you want to hear.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter that they said something different last week. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. So the Democrat side, every single one of them are career politicians, except for the billionaire. And that guy's just a complete fraud, because he made his entire living off of oil and futures. And he was just an investor. That's all he was. He was good at it. He made $1 billion, but then he went green and he made a couple $1 billion off of solar and all of the green garbage that they're pushing in California. And he just went total activism. He went, oh, I'm a billionaire now because of oil and gas. And now I'm going to go the other way and make $1.5 billion off of all this green. So now we have to be activists.
Just flown with
so
it,
he's just a complete fraud. The rest of the Democrats are career politicians that have just lied their way through, oh, I'll do this, vote for me and I'll do this, vote for me and I'll do this every single year. And Steve, to be quite honest with you, he did the same thing. His entire existence is a strategist for politicians. That's even worse because he figured out how to get them to lie and how to get them to do all these things. And that was his entire career. So the honesty part is just completely lacking in all of them because they're just telling you what you want to hear. And so the leadership ability, the proven leadership ability, get things done, do it, and that's the big difference. And I think that as I travel the state, that's what they tell me, why they're attracted to me is like, dude, you just seem like a normal person. It's like, you seem like my neighbor. And I'm just relatable. And it's because I've lived the whole thing. And the major difference between Trump and I, and everybody says it's like, oh yeah, he gave up everything, and it's like, well, it's easy to say you're a billionaire, so you take a $200,000 a year job. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm supposed to be retiring, and I'm supposed to be worrying about my retirement. This is a massive, massive pay cut for me, and so for me to go do this, it's not wise personally because it's like, man, I'd be better off staying where I am and then working into, the last few years before I retire.
Oh, weird. So why is Newsom poor?
Exactly. Well, the difference is going to be I'm going to come out poor and he came out a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He's never had a job outside of politics making less than what I make now. He makes far less than what I make now.
Right.
So how can he afford a $12 million home?
Exactly.
I can't afford a $12 million home.
Yeah.
I can't afford $1 million home. I mean, my house is probably $1 million now, but I bought it for 400.
Right.
So, my wife and I to say, let's go buy another house. We can't afford the house that we would want because it's too much money. Yeah. And I make more than he does. And he's buying $12 million homes like it's going out of style.
Yeah.
And is the corruption, that's why I'm going there. The law enforcement part of me, people need to be held accountable. It is corrupt. It is absolutely corrupt that the lobbyists are paying all this money that they're not supposed to. It's against the law, but they're paying all these people off. They're giving them cars. They're taking them on trips, all of these things to make their lives better, to make them rich. And we're all suffering for it.
So that's an extremely good point. That's probably one of my biggest, I won't say pet peeves in our national, interest or state. When people go, I'm a lobbyist, I'm like, oh, so you bribe people for a living. It's like, call it what you will. I mean, and coming from somebody I'm married to my wife's a pharmaceutical rep. So she literally goes to doctors and goes, hey, let me take you out for a steak dinner so that you will write scripts for the drug I'm peddling. Mm-hmm. It's the same shit essentially, but they actually kind of regulate how much stuff she can do and how much money she can spend on that. Whereas, and maybe they do it at the state and national level, and I just don't know about it. But the fact that there's so many politicians, and like with the whole shutdown, people are like, well, none of our elected officials should be getting paid if our TSA agents aren't getting paid, or if our Coast Guard isn't getting paid, or it's like they would not give a shit because they're making millions of dollars off of lobbyists and all this other shit. Like they're not relying on $174,000 whatever they make in the state. It's infuriating seeing this level of corruption, and it seems like there's no oversight. There's nobody going, hey, that's completely illegal. What is going to change?
Yeah, what happens?
And I know there's a minute amount of stuff that you can change as a governor. Probably can't change a whole lot at the national level, but it's
almost nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could try and influence, especially California. We're the biggest state in the country.
Yeah.
And so you do have a lot of influence. We have a lot of congressional power in Washington because of the amount of people that we have here and the amount of representatives we have. So you can be a force to be reckoned with if you're loud and if you're obnoxious and if you're talking about the right thing,
Right.
about what
I
people
bet
want to
Trump
hear.
could think of nothing better than having you jump into office. I mean, he's already touted the type of diplomacy in Florida and Texas, and the way that those states are ran, and their ability to work with DC
Yeah.
on that kind of level, and I think that we would probably see a lot more federal influence and a lot more favoritism due to of your ability to connect with our current.
Yeah. I will tell you, I foresee my governorship being a little bit like Trump's, because Trump's making Republicans mad too,
Oh yeah.
because he's not going along with the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing everything for us, for
Yeah.
Americans,
Yeah.
and for America, which that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not doing anything for Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or Libertarians. I'm not doing anything for those groups.
It's for
If
California.
it was exactly, it's for everyone here. It's for the entire state. It's for all of us that are here, for all of us to benefit. And I mean, they're both going to be mad at me. Both sides are going to be mad because both sides have those their little special interests that they want to, either their agenda or making money. The politicians in Sacramento they all might be mad when we start arresting lobbyists and that money dries up, and they're both going to hate me.
That's going to be awesome.
That would be great.
Well, this is a topic that is very inconsequential for California, but it's near and dear to my heart. Is I think it's called the Jay Leno law, because I remember because I've been born in '77, been in California my whole life, and I remember there used to be a rolling exemption for smog. I think it was
30 years.
Well, I think it was originally like 15 years, but then they stopped it, which would have been 82, whatever, or no, maybe 92, whatever. But they stopped it at 75. So now 75. So most of the cars that I've had for classics, I can't buy a 77 or 82 like Bronco, because you'll never get it smogged. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But a 75 or older, you can do amazing stuff with it. It's great.
Yeah.
So I was so bummed when that didn't pass. Is there, number one, do you
We
care
can
about that at
change
all?
it.
And then
Oh, I
two,
do
is
for
it
sure.
possible?
I think it's absolutely asinine. It's absolutely asinine. All it's doing is it's just another furtherance to stop you from having those cars. Get rid of gasoline cars. We have to go to electric. That's their motto. That's their agenda. The thing about that car, like, eventually, my wife knows it. Eventually, it's costing me more and more money as the longer I wait. But I'll have a '72 Bronco. That was my first car, and biggest regret ever is why I don't still have that car. But I'll have a '72 Bronco. I'm not going to drive that thing. I'll drive once in a while. My wife and I will get in it, and we'll go for a little ride, go get ice
Sunday
cream or
cruise.
something, and then come back. So you're not. It's not like you have this carbureted machine that's destroying the environment.
Yeah, it's not daily.
It's not. You're not going to have that as a daily driver. No one has those cars for daily drivers.
Right.
You take them out you cruise at night, or and so to say that they're destroying that, and it is the Jay Leno law, it's crazy that they're doing that, or that they have done what they have, and they're not reversing it. We're going to reverse it. The whole carb is going away. So all of those
Carburetors.
No, not carburetors. We'll bring back the carb. They're just ridiculous rules and laws that really have a different agenda than what they say. And they just when you really look at it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I'm so
There's
frustrated
so much
with that.
It's my nephew was pulled over. He was driving he had a 2014 Challenger. It's like it wasn't the Hellcat, but it was like the whatever.
It's the Hemi one.
Yeah, the Hemi one. And he's in the Navy. His car's registered in California, or registered in Tennessee, and he gets pulled over by a SD cop. And first, I was pissed off at him because he popped the hood and he let the guy go through all his car, and went through. I'm like, dude, don't just stop. Like
you could say no.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't have to let him look through your car. And there's literally nothing.
You can't do anything anyway.
Well, there's nothing done to it. It's literally a stock. It's stock. Everything is stock on it.
He's in the Navy, of course it's stock.
But it's fucking loud. It's a pretty loud car. And not to mention Mopar, they've kind of broken ahead of some of the other companies because they're touting their horsepower and
Beefy
their
engines, yeah.
And so sure as shit, he gets a fix-it ticket for not having something that's carb compliant on his car. And I'm like, dude,
It's registered out of
it's
state.
registered in Tennessee. Like which I may be way off because
You're not. I
Yeah.
mean, it shouldn't have happened. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't see how he got that. But how stupid. That's another one of those things where you're punished for being in California that no one else in the rest of the country has to deal with.
Yeah.
But you're in California, so you get to pay extra,
Yeah.
or you get to pay this fine, or we can make money off of you, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's just another one of those things that have to go away.
I'm
Wanna take a
looking
quick
forward to
break?
that. Yeah, good time for that.
Okay.
We're back in it.
We're back.
Training
And
day.
I truly,
Training day.
I wanted to ask you so much, but I wish we had you for like 5 hours. So
Round two.
we were talking about cars, emissions, gas, environmental stuff going into this, and I personally had my first ever bluefin spearfishing that I speared off the coast, 220 pounds. Absolute tank, right? So I had it all properly packaged, flash frozen, sealed, vacuum sealed, put in my freezer. And then my wife, being kind of new, we had a photo shoot up in Tahoe. So we drove all the way up to Tahoe and kind of road tripped it. Come back, only to walk in on my my condo on the beach here in Ocean Beach, not smelling right. And my gut sank immediately as I looked at the microwave and the oven, and you got the blinking lights, so
Yeah.
you know that the power rolled out. Well, my fridge didn't turn back on.
So
2 years of sushi down the drain.
I had all of this food gone. And so where I'm going with this is, I believe under Newsom, he wants all electric cars by 2030 in the state of California. But we have no infrastructure for that. We don't have enough electricity, and we have all these rolling blackouts. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's an absolute failure of government. Absolute failure, because the government controls all of it. The electric industry is regulated through the CPUC, which is the California Public Utilities Commission. They control everything that the power company is supposed to do. They're supposed to regulate cost. They are the only ones that can say that we are going to get our power rates raised, and they do it constantly. We get our rates raised every single year to make more money for the power company, but yet they're absolutely doing nothing to update their infrastructure. So the rolling blackouts are twofold. The rolling blackouts are, we're using too much electricity, we don't have enough capability in the grid to supply everybody power, so they just shut off your power. And it's rolling because it goes from one place to the next. So everybody suffers the same because we don't have the infrastructure to supply everybody power. Only state in the country. The only state in the country that can't supply its residents power. And we're supposed to be the greatest. And then another reason is when it's windy. When it's windy, they just shut your power off because the equipment is so outdated and old and antiquated that the power poles are 150 years old and rotten. They get blown over, the lines break down into the grass or the weeds, the trees, whatever it is. There's the fire, and then now we have a fire.
The Santa Ana's take over.
Yeah. So they blame it all on wind and global warming, when in reality, it's just a failure of the CPUC for the last 50 years to regulate the electric industry to supply us power. So no matter what, we know what's going to happen. And with me as the governor, we will absolutely force them 50% cut off your electric rate no matter what. They made $6.5 billion profit last year. Investors in other parts of the country are making money off of us because our rates get raised and we don't even have power. That's going to be cut. Then the remainder that they're going to that they have, they can make some profit, but they're not making billions off of us anymore. They're going to update their infrastructure, but the biggest thing in California is we're going to move to nuclear. There is no reason why we do not have nuclear power plants all throughout this state, giving us all the power that we need. It's cleaner, it's cheaper, it's more environmental friendly, it's more reliable, and they're making us believe that there's going to be this Chernobyl accident. That's non-existent now. That's never going to happen now. We have nuclear submarines that are best and brightest or are underwater for a year and a half, and that's all okay, but we can't have power here in a power plant that's supplying us power. The nuclear has evolved so much, it's almost get outdated. There's more laser technology that is supposedly going to be better than nuclear, but nuclear, it's so expensive. Nuclear is still the way to go. So we will be nuclear. We are going to have all of our power. Our power's not going to be shut off anymore. It's absolutely silly.
And what's the longevity on a nuclear power facility, especially compared to a solar one?
By far longer.
I mean, it has to be 100 years at least, I think.
At least, and if you're maintaining it and you're just keeping it up, it's forever.
Right.
It's just maintenance.
And
it's
we shut the one down up in Oceanside, between us and Orange County. Yeah, San Onofre.
Yeah.
Which is now this icon.
It makes no sense when you really look at California and energy. They're truly destroying our state. They're preventing growth. They're preventing new building. They're preventing new houses. All of these things. They not only did they have a nuclear facility and they shut it down for a solar plant that absolutely is far worse for the environment, and it doesn't provide electricity that we need. We also have electric dams in California that the state prevents from making electricity.
What?
There's nothing more clean than water generating power.
Hydroelectric dam. It's like ridiculous.
And we prevent that from happening. The state.
Why do they do that? Do they have a reason for it?
No, because it has nothing to do
It's
with.
probably some endangered fish or something.
I don't know.
Well, there
but
was
it has
the Delta
nothing,
smelt or some shit that was in like
That's right, yeah.
Sacramento.
supposedly.
Yeah, but
No one's ever seen them, but supposedly.
Absolutely. So my question to you would be, I mean, I've got 42 solar panels on my roof, and I've got 2 Tesla walls, and I still have like a $300 electric bill every month.
Yeah.
Do you really?
It's
And here's
fucking
the
ridiculous.
sad thing. You had a $300 electric bill before you did all that stuff.
No, I had like an $800 electric bill, but yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, that was 5 years ago, so I can't even imagine what my electric bill would be now if I hadn't
crazy.
put all that shit on my roof, which. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
First of all, thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm like, great, and I am still paying for this shit, and I'm still getting an electric bill. Granted, in the summer, because there's, in the summer, I will get some of that back. I will because
When you're generating.
yeah, when I'm actually generating enough to kind of offset that. But the question is, how much of, say, this infrastructure, like building of reservoirs, building of nuclear plants, and how much of this stuff is available to you as the governor, like right
All of
now?
it.
Like, okay, boom, we're
All
doing
of it.
this, we're doing okay.
All of it. It's regulation.
That's
It's
amazing.
nothing but regulation. We're removing the regulation that's preventing all of this from happening. The dams and reservoirs, we know where they all belong. We know where they should be. The plans are already there to do them. We're going to get the federal government to come in and build them, so we don't have to worry about spending 5 years going out to bid and everything else. The federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers, that's their job.
Yeah.
They go all across the world building dams and reservoirs and infrastructure, but we can't benefit it from here. It's like, why not? So they're going to come, they'll build us dams. The only reason we don't have them is because where the water is going to go, there's bugs and there's weeds and there's grass that environmentalists say are endangered, and they're more important than us.
Yeah.
And
or
so-
human
Of course.
beings and going through buds.
Yeah,
where
Yeah.
you're getting giardia and
Of
all
course.
kinds of other infections.
yeah. There's a
Yeah.
in my backyard that would butt up to Mission Trails Park, and they're only allowed to clear brush. And there was just a not too long ago, our council member had a open forum town hall meeting. Was asking, hey, anybody has questions about the Santa Anas, the wildfires, and like all these things in this area, which predominantly because if your house butts up against a huge brush,
You should probably clear the brush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, they can only do it during certain months because it's a bird that eats these mosquitoes or some shit. Anyways, they were like, we can only do it in like 3 months out of the year when they're not breeding. But this entire, it's a tinderbox. I'm like, I'm just
is.
waiting for this thing to go up.
That's why the Palisades, why we lost the Palisades.
Of course.
Because that's all across the state is you can't, The logging industry was pushed out, so we buy all of our wood that we need from Canada. So Canada's being rich off everything that we build here. We should be logging our own forests.
Right.
You don't log your own forest for so long, then when they catch fire, you can't put it out. So now millions and millions and millions of acres are completely vanished, burned down to ash because we didn't manage them.
Yeah.
And then the Palisades, it's defensible space around property. And fire departments are prevented by California regulation for environmental activism. They're prevented from creating those defensible spaces, which that's why the insurance companies left. So that's why our insurance companies our insurance rates are through
Forgot
the
about
roof.
that. Yeah.
So you remove those environmental regulations. We go back to the regular government of our country that everybody abides by, and not the ones on steroids for California.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden the fire department can create these defensible spaces. All the insurance companies come back in because this is where all their clients are. They want to be here. Now they're competing for our business, so the rates all come back down
Right.
again.
Oh my God, common sense.
So call me. Call me
that's what
stupid,
has to happen.
But where is the downside to you being elected? Because obviously,
There is not one downside.
I don't understand.
There's the thing about there is not anybody that votes for me. There will never, ever, ever be a time that anyone that votes for me ever says, "Man, I wish I wouldn't have voted for him. I regret voting for him." It's
totally
never
forgot
going to
about
happen.
the insurance portion of it.
Right.
It's all trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And, but also on the caveat side, and what I think is destroying our state, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with all of these environmental lobbyists, they don't know a fucking mosquito from a grasshopper, and they don't care about that. So correct me if I'm wrong, these environmental agencies, does this only exist because of the funding that they get? And so by litigation sustaining all of these, is it just sustaining revenue and paychecks for them?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the only reason they're actually existing. It's not because they care about the grasshopper.
It's an agenda. They don't care about the grasshopper. It's an agenda, but it's an agenda of anti-growth. So we can't expand. We can't build housing. We can't build roads. We can't, because you're gonna destroy that weed. That's endangered. There's fairy shrimp. There's all of these burrowing owls. We almost didn't get to rebuild our academy because of burrowing owls. And if they would have found them, and it's so stupid. I mean, if they would have found them there, enough of them there, we would have had to mitigate that by buying other property somewhere and moving those owls. So I said, well, if we come in here and start messing with it, aren't the owls going to?
Aren't they going to leave?
Aren't they going to leave anyway? And it's like, it seems pretty common sense to me.
Yeah, but they can't charge the owl's property tax.
You would
probably-
think.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
dude.
Well,
No
so
shit.
here's
And they're not endangered, and it's like everything else. It's like the stupid bird that eats the gnats. It's like
everything is
go somewhere else.
Yeah, everything is to prevent growth. Our farming industry is being ruined by a lack of water. They don't want to build reservoirs because then the farming community would have water. They can't expand. We can't build additions to homes or to neighborhoods because there's not enough water for residents to have. And it's all government made. 70% of the water in our state, we have more water than any place in the country. Every single year we get by far more water than any place in the country, rain and snow. And 70% of it's routed to the ocean. 70% of the water we get every single year.
It's
I was
ridiculous.
wondering
routed
about
to the
that
ocean.
because Tahoe.
We've never had a drought in California. We have government. The government told us we had a drought, and they told us they had a drought so they could ration the water that we use and then raise our rates and get more money.
Yeah.
And it's all in the name of no growth, and that is completely against America. It's completely against society in general. It's all about growth. We're being harmed now because the death rate is exceeding the birth rate. So, I mean, we're going to have some massive problems if we don't manage that pretty quick, because nobody's going to be able to take care of us when we retire.
Yeah.
And it's just massive
Well,
problem.
and the reason for the lack of birth rate is this is kind of twofold, right? So what you were saying, lack of growth, but the border that I can see from my backyard was open to 8 million to 10 million estimated, and obviously a massive large of influx here in the state of California. But then also minimal or very few places to live as far as affordable housing goes. So that kind of doesn't, I know that the numbers are in flux in order to help kind of garner Democratic votes. But then where are we putting these people? And then also, do you think that an illegal is going to be buying a fucking Tesla, in order to maintain Newsom's, all electric cars? And then on top of that, with the water usage, it's like, it just seems like none of this makes any sense.
Yeah, it's self-defeating.
It is.
It's like what they did by allowing all of them in here. It's self-defeating for the whole purpose of what we have in California with cost of living and everything else, because all it's doing is driving it up for the rest of us. The massive amount of money that we're spending on all of the people that are here illegally is crazy.
Yeah.
But you're not getting any benefit.
No, none.
You have to pay for your own medical insurance.
I had to pay for my wife's immigration process into here. And well, so that's where I was going earlier is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're an illegal immigrant, you walk into a hospital to have a baby, you're probably not going to get a bill. But if I did, I'm going to get a $15,000 to $25,000 bill if I'm uninsured.
And then they'll hunt you down, tax your property, take your property.
Garner my wages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, but that enforces illegal immigrants, especially under, I believe it was Biden's, or Biden.
Biden. Actually,
Yotam
It's both.
Yeah, Yotam Yen, it's the same. Where if you're naturalized now, if you have a child, in the country or the state, but there's no benefit for us. So
Are you talking about anchor babies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no benefit to a blue collar, white American, and I'm not saying it has to be white, but a blue collar American working, especially with our insurance rates. I mean, I remember life limit and eyesight before I was, rated by the VA was $400 for life limit or eyesight a month. And that's no OBGYN, that's no dental, that's no vision, that's no pre-cancer screenings. That's none of these things that are going to prevent you from spending hundreds, if not millions of dollars in healthcare.
Yeah. It's the environment that we have here because of that. Because of those 4 years, everything got worse here. Cost of living went up. Lack of available housing went up. Some jobs got lost. The government spending skyrocketed. And you look at those, and for what? Somebody that came here illegally.
Right.
But we get no benefit.
Yeah, none.
We get no benefit. The government's not trying to make our lives better.
Yeah.
They're not saying, hey, it's expensive for you and your wife work. Childcare is expensive, so we're going to give you a little bit of money to help offset childcare. You don't get that being a Californian.
None. Because my revenue stream is higher than $30,000 a year, which is impossible to live in this state if you're making that.
Yeah, we're just in a horrible environment here.
We're closer to China than we ever have been to Americans with regards to no middle class.
Yeah, and it's constantly getting worse. They tout all of the high tech and the millionaires and the billionaires and everything here, and those people aren't affected by the cost of living, but it's the middle class that can't afford it anymore.
Well, but then they chase them out with a billionaire tax or whatever the hell.
So now they're all leaving.
Yeah.
And the bad part about California is it's all about income tax. So they leave their businesses. That's where the state gets most of its revenue, 90% of it, 95% from income tax. So these people leave. They're not making income anymore. So now they're not taxed at all because they're gone. Their businesses leave. So now all of those people that were making money for that business, they're all gone.
Yep.
And now the budget is now completely upside down. So they're spending more money that they don't have.
Yeah.
So we've only got you for another 17 minutes roughly, but I think this is a good opportunity because you've gone through the immigration process with your wife, and then you're deeply familiar with this with California dealing with the illegals. So twofold. Number one, what are your views on the immigration process? And then two, what's the sheriff's relationship with ICE, and how's that whole thing playing out with you guys?
This whole issue is so emotional and such a hotbed, and the majority of it is because we're lied to. We're lied to a little bit even on the right, from the right, but the left is just absolutely lying to us about the immigration system. California is a sanctuary state. That is an absolute disaster. It absolutely has to go. I currently have a lawsuit. It's in limbo right now It was dismissed by a liberal judge, but the SB 54 is unconstitutional because it forces me to violate two laws. I either have to violate state law or I have to violate federal law by doing so. So that makes it unconstitutional. But
What's SB 54?
SB 54 is what made us
feds.
a sanctuary state. So that was a state law that said we are a sanctuary state. And here's the thing, what it did. It did nothing to protect you, and it did nothing to protect people who are here illegally. The entire bill was written to prevent people who are in jail that are also in the country illegally. It prevents them from being deported. That's the only people it does. That's the only people it's helping are criminals who victimize us that are also here illegally. I have to release them back into our communities instead of turning them over to federal government for immigration for deportation. That's how it's supposed to happen. And sanctuary state prevents it. So that absolutely has to go away. We're in limbo because it was dismissed, and before we file our appeal, we're waiting on a Supreme Court decision that's coming out of Tahoe that's very, very similar, and it's not about immigration, but the ruling and why is the same, and if we get the right opinion, it's going to automatically make ours. We're going to win. So, or when I'm the governor, we're just going to change it. We're going to go back to where it's supposed to be. So sanctuary state has to go. There's now there's a lot of let me tell you what where the system is right now. Federal government is responsible for immigration, not local. I've been doing this 33 years. Other than when I was in the jail, when we did it in the jail, when we called ICE and said we have 15 that we're getting ready to release, come pick them up, and so they would come pick them up and take them away, and then they would deport them.
What year was that?
That ended in 2017.
Oh wow.
That's when sanctuary state happened. Okay. And that's when law enforcement was prevented from doing anything with the federal government. So where we are right now is if a local law enforcement officer pulls somebody over, contacts them for a call, whatever the case may be, we are prevented by law from asking about that immigration status. We can't ask you if you have ID. I mean, we can ask for ID, but if you say no, it's like, okay, then no ID, but we can't ask you if you're here illegally. We can't ask you your citizen status. If we do, and we all have body-worn cameras on, so there's always going to be proof. If we do, it's an automatic $25,000 fine for the cop.
Wow.
So it's a civil penalty.
To the department or the police officer?
If the department chooses to pay it, they can, but they don't have to.
Wow.
So if the county or the city decides we're not paying that, then it goes back to the officer, and the officer's got to pay it. So you're never going to get a cop asking citizenship. Right. And to be honest with you, it doesn't care unless we're going to arrest you. Right. That's when it should care. And I'll explain. I'll explain why.
Reasonable suspicion of a crime.
Yeah, and I'll explain why after this part. But in the jail, if I have the jail staff cooperate with ICE and we let ICE come in and go into the jail and we do anything inside the jail, I'm guilty of a crime as the sheriff, and I can be removed from office. So if I violate SB 54, which is our sanctuary state law, I can be removed from office. And I am hated by our attorney general and our governor, and they are watching us like a hawk.
Oh yeah.
And they know I have two cases in my jail right now. Both of them are DUIs, and they both killed somebody. And so there's a potential of them being released. I'm not releasing them. I'm not doing it. If they get released and I'm forced to release them, I'm calling ICE and we're getting them deported. They are multiple DUIs, and now that they've been released prior, and now somebody's dead because we keep allowing criminals into this country that victimize us, that they weren't here to benefit their lives because they keep victimizing us and breaking the law, and there's no consequence, and now people are dead. So technically, when I call ICE and tell them to come get them, I can be removed from office because I'm violating SB 54.
I was going to ask you what's legally preventing you from making a phone call, since you're not actively doing it. It's making that communication. Yeah. There can't be the state law prevents the communication. Yeah. Well, this is where, you as a stand-up citizen and also law enforcement, I can almost guarantee a Democrat would call or have their agent or somebody call the federal government.
Yeah,
And be like,
call
hey,
us. We'll call ICE.
Yeah. Well, we might find a workworkaround.
Yeah.
We might find a loophole in the process, but it's
drop them at
absolutely
Home
asinine.
Depot.
So yeah. So let me talk about the immigration, because a lot of problem with me, and I do these podcasts and I do even news interviews. It's like I'll go for all day. As long as you guys want to talk, we'll talk. I'll answer anything, and it goes for a long time. And some things that happen is then it makes it easy for people that don't like me or don't want me around to go back and take
Snippets.
5 seconds of that
Yeah.
conversation. And that's what's happening with this. Because I've talked about this before, about the failed immigration system, that the federal government has to fix it, and it can't be law enforcement. And this is one of the reasons why I say that, is local law enforcement can't. So the deputies on the street, the cops on the street, shouldn't be involved in immigration enforcement, because what we see, what we absolutely know is happening, is the majority of people that come from other countries, unless it's Canada, but if it's the countries where people are flocking here, they have corrupt law enforcement. And so they don't trust law enforcement. Well, we go out of our way to build those bridges and get into those communities to say that we're not them. And we have to have those relationships, because we're just here for criminals. We got to stop people from victimizing us. So the biggest fear that we have, if people are afraid of talking to law enforcement, or because cops are involved in immigration, is, this is the most extreme. I have a 14-year-old girl getting repeatedly raped, and she's threatened that she better not say anything or her and her parents are going to get deported. And so she's afraid to come up to a deputy and say, help me.
Yeah.
And so she's repeatedly victimized because of this stupid law. And people are afraid that local cops are not going to be there to help them. They're going to get deported. It shouldn't happen. We should care about the suspect. The suspect, once we find out they're illegal, they're out. They got to go, and they should never, ever come back in the country again. So it has to be a good working relationship between local government and federal government to make sure we deport all these people. But local cops can't be doing the deporting. It has to be the federal government. It's in the Constitution that it's the federal government, and that's how it should be. So then here's another thing that got me in trouble, is the whole amnesty thing. I'm a law and order guy. There is absolutely no amnesty. You broke the law. You don't get to come into the country illegally, and then because you got here, it's King's X, and I'm not guilty anymore because I made it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how any crime works.
Yeah.
We might as well just what are we going to expand that to? Murder too? If you don't get caught within the first 24 hours, then it's good. I mean, that's,
you made it.
It's stupid to say that. So you broke the law. There is no amnesty. But what I don't agree with, and this might be in your situation with your wife, I do not, the federal immigration system is absolutely broken. For people that come here legally, that then they make it almost impossible to become a citizen when you're trying and you want to, and you're doing it the right way. That has to be fixed. We have to have a legitimate pathway to citizenship for people. And that's what got me in trouble, was saying pathway to citizenship, because that pathway to citizenship, people took that as saying amnesty.
It's different than amnesty. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm completely against amnesty.
Yeah.
But if you're coming here legally, whether you're here on a student visa or you're here on a work visa or whatever it is, and you decide that you want to be an American citizen, there should be a process to make that happen, and it shouldn't take 20 years. I have friends that have been doing it. One's more than 15, the other one's 20, and they can't get it done.
That is so crazy.
That's crazy, man.
And they
especially if they kept their nose clean, they do the right thing. Yeah.
Both of them are
contributing.
professional athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've got a wife and kids, and they've paid taxes forever, and it just can't get it done. One of them, they're claiming they're going to deport him. And it's like, my gosh, it's
Even my wife's wondering about
broken.
that.
It's broken.
I called about that.
So I mean, the system
You're gonna
has to
kill
be
yourself
broken.
tonight.
So you and your wife is she a citizen now?
No, she's not. So she has her green card, permanent resident. And so that's kind of what I was going into is, we had to prove that we were married. I had signed letters from command master chiefs at the SEAL teams, all the way to politician friends of ours. But very, very few individuals have that benefit kind of allotted to them that I
Oh,
have.
yeah.
And not to mention, I mean, I worked at high levels of the government. I used to have a top secret clearance. So that also really helps out with the background check. And one of my kind of very minute resolutions to this problem is, and this has to happen on the federal level, but if we saved so many trillions of dollars with Doge, which I firmly believe in, let's reallocate some of that money that we pulled back from being laundered and spent on wasteful, on dogs getting, sex changes, throw that into the immigration process of people that are allowed to vet applications of citizens, right? Because if you're here on a student visa, right? One of the stipulations in immigration was like necessary persons. So if you were a high level engineer working at Anduril or Raytheon or Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, whatever that may be, or professional athlete, which is crazy to hear that your contacts are professional athletes. I know some professional skateboarders that were allowed to go through the immigration process. Granted, it was in the 90s, back when it was a lot easier. But beef up that process in order to allow it to be a lot easier, to where you don't have to be married and knock out this, toxic show 90 Day Fiance, to circumnavigate, the nuances of this process.
Yeah, or I mean, how about we just make a flat tax rate in the entire country and get rid of all the tax agents, the IRS agents, and make them immigration agents.
There you go.
Right.
And now we can process all of these people that are trying to come in. It's truly common sense. If we wanted to fix it, we could fix it easy.
Yeah.
Right.
So it almost makes you wonder, they don't want to fix it.
Exactly.
But why wouldn't they want to fix
And
it?
if they're not married, with all the farmers in the Central Valley, like, find out, like, we can do an audit. As long as you're not a criminal, and even if you are here illegally, I mean, there would have to be faith, I guess, involved, then apply. And if you have no criminal record, we'll now put you in the system, and you can maintain your same job. And now, that whole process can kind of be smoothed out. Let's just say you have been here illegally for 7-10 years, but you've been doing nothing but picking strawberries and busting your butt and, taking care of your family and being a stand-up citizen, as opposed to the one that's raping children and all the DUIs. Yeah. And one of the other stipulations I want to bring up too that I've noticed is I lived in Mexico for a couple of years. I have an affinity for Mexico. Mexico isn't necessarily the problem. They are the funnel for the rest of the world.
Right.
And when we have all of these crimes that are committed by illegals, Salvadorians, Ecuadorians, Palestinians, Russians, especially during this Russian-Ukraine war.
Chinese.
Yeah, like, it is the funnel.
There wasn't anybody coming across the border from Mexico.
No, they were the, like I said, the funnel. And so now my understanding, due to my knowledge and friendship with the Canadian government, they don't have the bandwidth like we have. And so now, ever since Trump shut down the southern border, now it's the northern border. And the northern border is a massive problem. So now they're starting to see all these drug rings being spun up right on the border, well, kind of like where Banff is, and going into the Dakotas and Wyomings, that are now like drug havens and sex trafficking rings that are bringing everything in from the north down south, because they don't have the oversight that we do. Because, like, what, you're going to get two guys looking like redcoats on horses, like, patrolling the entire northern border?
Yeah.
Not in the fucking winter.
Yeah.
Well,
see, for us, our issue was always the southern border, and then that's when the big issue was. So all of our resources go to the southern border.
Yeah.
There wasn't that many people coming through the northern border.
There
and
wasn't.
Between our minimal effort and Canada's minimal effort, it was pretty much regulated.
Yeah.
But now, when it's all coming through there, everybody's just overwhelmed. And even as big as we are, we don't have the resources to pull from the southern border. If we pull from the southern border to go to the north, now it's going to open both of them up. Neither one of them are going to be secure.
That'd be at 50%.
It seems pretty simple, though. Like, if you're contributing to the system,
You should.
easier pathway to citizenship. If you're taking more from the system, you're contributing, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, it should be that simple.
Well, the fact that we allow so much enabling and so much government assistance being pushed upon our immigrants, whether they're here legally or illegally, I mean, I don't feel like our government, I don't think tax-paying citizens should be paying
No. We shouldn't be paying for free things for them. Free
Exactly.
medical
Yeah,
care,
never.
free
Yeah.
schooling, free homes. I mean, there's a deal now where we're going to be paying taxpayer money for their down payments on houses.
That's crazy.
Well, why can't my kids get that?
Right.
Yeah.
My kids don't get that. My kids can't afford a house.
Right.
They'll never be able to save enough for a down payment on a house. But if you're here illegally, they're just going to give you one.
Yeah, it's wild
it's-
stuff.
Things are so backwards. And as we've said the word here several times, common sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's common sense. That's what is absolutely missing.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, why do you feel you're more qualified? I honestly don't. There is the three of you, the four of you are no more qualified, or I'm no more qualified than any of you to be the governor. Any one of you could be the governor. The difference is I have a platform that's allowing me to get elected.
Yeah.
It's the name recognition. It's the things that I've done in the past with COVID and the things that we did. It's that name recognition and the profile but we all think the same. I guarantee we're all coming up with the same solutions to fix these stupid problems that are broken with what should be easy fixes
Yeah.
because it's common sense.
Well,
This
I'm-
podcast is more productive than I'm sure any legislative meeting, with the Democrats in the state of California.
My favorite story in the last year and a half with our legislature, all the things that are broken, everything that's broken. Think of everything bad about California. One party rule, they could fix anything they wanted. They could fix it today
Yeah.
if they wanted it.
Mhm.
And they spent a day arguing whether or not Sasquatch should be the mythical creature of California.
They have laws. They have laws and street signs that were like
I thought Oregon had their dibs on that.
Well, yeah, you're not allowed to shoot Bigfoot in Oregon, but I'm pretty sure once you get up to like the Emerald Triangle and like the Redwoods, they
It's
say
crazy.
Bigfoot crossing. Taxpayers paid for that, and trust
Yeah.
me, I would clean Bigfoot in my car if I saw him, and I would happily go to jail in the handcuffs.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
I nailed it.
Well, I'm glad that you're in a position that you're in. I'm super excited for you to bring some freaking well-needed change to California because it needs it. We're over time, but I do. If you have a few more minutes, I'd love to
Sure.
end it on a high note or a funny note anyway.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite police movie? And maybe if it's different, what's the most accurate movie that you've seen?
Ooh. I'm a Dirty Harry fan. I've seen every single one of them. I've seen every movie that Clint Eastwood's been in,
Yeah, he's a
but
G.
all of the Dirty Harrys are just amazing. There's a lot of good ones. Training Day. I mean, how do you not like Training
Do you think
Day?
it's pretty accurate? Training Day,
Uh,
early 2000s,
Ye-
LA.
maybe earlier than that.
Yeah,
Maybe earlier than
that was that old crew you were
Early
talking about.
90s, maybe.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
early 90s, the 80s. There's always truth to it. It's embellished a little bit for law enforcement. And I will tell you that about law enforcement movies. And it maybe you guys might say the same for military.
Oh,
There's
definitely.
always
Oh, yeah.
truth to it. It's like, okay, that's real. That's not.
Yeah.
And so it makes it better for TV when you embellish it, make it more exciting.
Right.
But there's truth to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know of any really accurate law enforcement movies. I like them all though.
Well, the only Navy SEAL movie that was accurate was Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
No. No. Navy SEALs versus zombies.
Oh yeah,
Come on, man.
That's a movie?
Yeah,
Kevin was in
that's
it.
where I'm the first one that dies. You remember seeing that one?
Of course you are. No way. I gotta watch this. How am I today years old learning this?
You never saw that one?
No,
Oh,
of course I
man.
didn't.
Come on.
It was in theaters all over the place.
Well,
All right,
ladies
well-
and gentlemen, Sheriff Chad Bianco, I and our soon-to-be new governor. I literally a couple times during this podcast I have chills. I'm much more being a homeowner and being from California. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you're trying to do and all the effort and wherewithal that you're putting in to try to rectify this great state. Thank you
you.
so
100%.
much.
Thank you for
Absolute
stepping
honor
up.
having you on.
And as a
you.
public servant for everything you've done for 30 plus years as a
Yeah.
law enforcement officer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If
absolutely.
I get pulled over going home though, no.
Very good.
Just kidding.
Tell them I
Appreciate
made you late.
Thank you, sir.
Sincerely.
Absolutely. Good
Thank you
seeing you
much, sir.
guys.
Thank you so
Good to meet
much.
you.
Right
Good
on.
seeing you.
All right,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thanks, guys.